All right, bud. I think we are now live. I want to welcome everybody to another Wednesday night conversations with Cougars. And I've got my friend, my teammate, my classmate, Willie Banks, number 41, half of that dynamic linebacking duo from our class of 86. Good to see you, bud. You're looking good.
Thank you, sir. Same. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm so pleased to have you on here. I know you and I have kept up with each other over the last several years.
Yep.
Just it's so cool to see what the next generation's doing. I had a daughter play college lacrosse. You have a son currently playing in college on football, and we'll get into all that in just a few minutes. But
Okay.
if you would, Willie, catch up people with what you're doing these days. Tell us about your beautiful family. Where do you live? What do you do? And all that good stuff.
All right. Yeah. I live in a small town called Grayson, Georgia. It's about maybe 35 to 40 minutes northeast of Atlanta. I have a beautiful wife. We've married about 12 years. I have a son who's 11. And then I have an older son from a previous relationship. He's 21. He's legal. So two boys and a lovely wife and two dogs. And I'm surprised they're not barking right now. But yeah, that's where I am. I work for NCR. So most people know us as the ATM company, but I do a lot of internet banking and stuff like that. So that's what I do. Just sort of a normal IT life living here in Atlanta.
Well, for those of you who may not be familiar with Atlanta area high school football, take Northview in the 80s and add a whole bunch of steroids. I don't mean literally, but Grayson is not only a powerhouse in Atlanta, in Georgia, in the Southeast, but in the country.
Yep.
And I had the privilege to see Willie's older son, Stephen, play 3 or 4 years ago. They came over to Hoover, another powerhouse in Alabama in its own right. And they did more than spank them. But I don't know if it was Stephen's senior year or
junior year. It was a senior year. It was a senior year. Yeah.
Guys, they had 41 seniors on that team. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is a huge powerhouse of a program.
Yeah.
Stephen is at Georgia State.
Georgia State right now. Yep. Major name.
Does he live on campus?
Well, so he was. So this year, roughly around last spring, he decided to hang up the cleats. Partly because he's actually in school on an academic scholarship, not actually a football scholarship. He was on the football team. He played a few games, had a lot of opportunities, but he wanted to focus on his chemistry degree and the football schedule and the chemistry classes sort of got in the way, and we had to make a decision, and he made a decision. So because of COVID, right, they sent everyone home, and he's actually virtually learning. I don't know how you do that with chemistry, but he's virtually learning at home, and he hates it. He wants to leave as quickly as he possibly can, but we're trying to figure that part out, with COVID and everything.
He loves his father, but he wants his freedom.
He loves his father from afar. Is what he wants to do. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Well, gosh, I want to welcome. We got so many folks have rolled in here, Willie, to share a little love with you. Coach Randy Hicks. Eric McAllister, LaRue Freeman. See who else? Oh, Rue. Yeah, he commented that you can still wear your jersey, Coach.
Just a little bit. I had to stuff it in a little bit. I'm holding my breath for the next hour, so
there you go.
I might faint along the way.
Mike Henry, who's doing some awesome things in the wire.
Just saw Mike Henry a few months ago. Yeah.
And Jason Mullins, who is several years behind us, but very much part of the program and is always a great contributor.
Right.
Guys, one of the successes to our senior season on defense is the fact that we had two very seasoned senior linebackers, the dynamic duo. And neither of them were overtly loud or you would hear a lot out of them. These are the two guys whose actions spoke volumes.
Yeah.
And there were no two more imposing linebackers in South Alabama, if not the state that year. Cassie went on, he was a tackling machine and went on to Southern Miss. you, Willie, went on to then Troy State, now Troy,
Right.
and had a little success with a certain Division II championship.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
And not to get too far into that, but there were Dothan High players on that team. Doug Mims
Doug
comes.
Mims. Yep. Yep.
We'll get into competing against and then playing with in college in a few minutes. Coach Josh Parrish, who you remember as about a fifth grader, sixth grader when we were seniors, and Miss Shirley C., of course, and she says to tell you hello.
Yeah, hello.
Willie, let's backtrack a little bit, but let's start with our senior year. Going into that summer, what did that look like to you? You had played multiple different positions, but settled at linebacker.
Yep.
And what was your outlook? Take us back to your mindset, if you can, that summer leading into the fall.
Well, we'd had at Northview had a lot of success, right? And we knew that that winning was we were trying to make that a habit, right? And that's one of the things we say here at Grayson, right? Winning is a habit. And I was that going into that senior year, it was filled with a lot of uncertainty, right? As you said, I was a quiet guy. I'm sort of I won't say an introvert. That's putting too much of a title on it. But I kept to myself and I did what I was supposed to do, right? And you hear coaches saying do everything the right way. We were doing some crazy stuff back then. During the summer, I remember having the ammonia bucket, right? I know I keep hearing you talk about statutes of limitations gone, right? But I remember having the ammonia bucket sitting on the side of the field, right? And it's hot as crap in Alabama, and many times you had to earn your right to get water type of thing, right? And if you got water, you had to get it out of the hot water hose type of thing, right? So a lot of things, right? But I knew it was my senior year and I wanted to be as fun as I possibly could be, right? I wanted to have a great time, and I knew I had a lot of great guys, right? I remember this is the same team that we had I think it was my JV year. We went undefeated our JV year, right? And we had a good group of individuals, and we had a lot of guys coming in ahead of us that we wanted to make proud. But it was filled with a lot of uncertainty, and it didn't get any better our first game, right? And our number one player goes down, and he's like, oh crap, right? We're in trouble, right? But somehow we guys stepped up, and made it work.
It was the first series of the first game.
Yeah. I remember it.
Leading up to the season starting, how comfortable were you at one of those inside linebacker positions? Had you gotten comfortable with it, or was it an ever evolving thing? Who was your coach? Tell me about the rapport with your coach.
That year it was Bubba. Bubba Johnson was the linebackers coach, and Ragsdale was the defensive coordinator, I believe, at that time. And Bubba and I had built a really good relationship. He was sort of like this official / unofficial mentor. I was one of those guys that sometimes needed a ride home because I didn't have a car, and my mom may be working, and my brother at the time, I think he was in college, and my oldest sister was in college. So, things were difficult, and Bubba was that guy that, you need a ride, let's go, jump in the back of the truck, which is probably illegal today too, right? So,
1985, it was fine.
but Bubba and Ragsdale sort of made it easy, right? They made us comfortable, right? And it helped, playing next to Cassie, because if I made a mistake, he was there to correct it, and if he made a mistake, I was there to correct it. And we had some, we had Lonnie in the front, we had Manuel on the side. I think we had I can't remember all the linemen. I think Chris Lee was out there. We had guys in the back, Mike Henry and all those guys behind us that, if we made a mistake, they'd clean up for us. So we had a great team of individuals that was playing on that team, and we felt comfortable. I felt comfortable playing where I was. All I had to do was seek and hit, right? That's it.
You had among others, you had Joey Sheffield,
yep.
Ross Morris,
yep.
Behind you, you had Aristotle,
yep.
You had Mark Reeves, you had Mike Henry,
yep.
You had some real talent.
We were talented. We were talented.
And I'll tell you that on those rare occasions when we had one-on-ones or 1v1s, first team on first team, and it was always like on the 5 or 10 yard line trying to get in. And Coach Parrish was not going to let us off that field
Yeah.
unless whatever objectives he wanted at that time were
Right.
accomplished.
Right.
Typically, it was the offense trying to score on
Yep.
short yards,
Yep.
but typically we were getting hammered. And it was no thanks to you and to Cassie and your leadership, but that got old. It really
Yeah.
did.
I'm sure. I'm sure it did. But we hated hitting, LaRue coming up the middle too, right? So, that wasn't fun on our side either, because I was always happy that Lonnie was sitting at nose and he'd take the hit, right? And then we just clean up, right? But yeah, but it made it tough, right? It's iron sharpens iron type of thing, right? So I think that's what built that cardiac cougar thing we were known for back in the day. I think that helped build it. We weren't quitting, right? No matter what.
Willie, what it did is it helped to provide goal line stands for you guys at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It helped us, like in no thanks to me, but it helped us in the Fairhope game with our short yardage and Lawrence going over the top.
Yep. Remember that game?
You're right. Those ones on ones ultimately proved us that that was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
But,
It was painful though.
I
But it
don't
was
want to
painful.
leave out the Chris Parkers. I don't
Yeah.
want to leave out the juniors and sophomores who also contributed.
Yeah, definitely.
Bernard Brinkley, among others.
Yeah.
But let's pause our senior year for a few minutes and back up. Where did you grow up? What part of town?
I grew up on a street called Cherry Street. My mother actually still lives in the same home, still the same phone number we had back then. So that's real simple. So Cherry, it was off of Stout Street, off of Headland Avenue, in that near Johnson Home, but not quite. It's sort of a good walking distance near Florida Avenue, Alabama Avenue, all in that sort of that area, right?
And did you have classmates or teammates who lived in your neighborhood?
Not really, right? So it was a weird dynamic in my neighborhood. I didn't have, of course, knew a lot of classmates, but not very many lived in that street or near that street.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really, as far as classmates, even going up to middle school, a lot of the people that I interacted with, they weren't really sports people. They didn't do
I was
sports.
going to say, I know a couple of your buddies were maybe George Perry or Greg
Yeah.
Britt.
Yeah. Greg was my buddy all the way through high school. And Greg lived sort of up the street around the corner. George lived off of, I think, Florida Avenue. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of friends that played sports, and I was sort of even at a young age, all the way up maybe up to middle school, I was sort of an introvert. I really didn't do much sports wise except run. My oldest brother was a cross country runner. He ran cross country for Northview, and then he also went on to run cross country at Troy. And I found myself at times out running with him. Right, he would leave me. Right, he'd run 10 miles and I'd run 2, right, type of thing. But I was more of that type of guy, and I don't know why. And me and my son was having a conversation the other day about, I told him my real first true football experience was ninth grade in high school. And he said, well, Dad, you always say you hate when kids start playing that late in life. I said, yeah, just because I did it doesn't mean it right. I think, especially in today's world, if a kid starts playing, I'm a coach, a youth football coach. So I've coached my son's 11-year-old team, and I want to brag a little bit because these guys have been into the rec league championship ever since they were 6.
Awesome.
We've won 3 of them. We lost a couple.
Some call that a dynasty. I don't know. Some call that a dynasty.
We've only lost 1 regular season game in those
Oh.
years, and we got revenge on that team as well. And we're in the playoffs now. When the first round of the playoffs starts on Saturday, and so I see it, and I told my son, I said, I don't, a kid shouldn't start at 6. I mean at 11, right? Because kids they're hitting a lot harder at 11 than they used to hit when we were coming up. They're built different than we were. They're training year round for this, and they're prepared. My son trains all the time. My 11-year-old trains all the time. They're prepared for this type of stuff, and those are just the normal kids, right? What about the superstars are even doing even better? So, but yeah, I was a late bloomer, right? I didn't really play till ninth grade. I was looking at a yearbook just the other day of all the people, all the faces in that ninth grade. We look like a bunch of uh,
We we had a huge ninth grade team.
we did. We did.
Now, what got you to come out for football? Where'd you go to middle school, and how did you get recruited to come out?
So I think, the I went to middle school at Honeysuckle.
Mhm.
At Honeysuckle, I was into, I did the Boy Scouts type of thing, right? I was that kid, right? So, and I did some intramural stuff. I never really played it organized, but I think winning, Northview winning that championship in, I think
We were in eighth grade.
it was at 80, 81, was it?
Yeah,
Or
we were in
80,
eighth grade.
eighth
Yep.
grade, right? So that leads up to it. It's like, yeah, I want to be one of those guys, right? And I remember, seeing the Larry Roberts of the world, and I saw the Leo Butlers of the world, and I knew those guys, and those guys went to school with my sister, so she was, I was headed to Northview. I said, why not, right? And it made sense, and so I decided to come out and play, and that's history from there.
Well, I remember you being a lineman, an offensive lineman at
Yep,
one.
nine. Yep. I think I wore 67 or some crazy number like that, right? Yeah, or 60. I can't remember the exact number I was. Yeah, offensive lineman. I think I was even considered for a running back at one time. But we had LaRue, right? I couldn't. I mean, LaRue was doing that for years, right?
We had Morris Ward. We had
Yep.
Henry Stanley. We had a
Yeah.
pretty good stable of
I,
backs.
yeah, I was more going to be a fullback, not a true running back, right? I was going to be that bruising guy that was going to get us, 5 yards if we needed it, type of thing. But because I was quick relatively, and I was a decent size. I wasn't, once again, not as big as LaRue. I wasn't a bruiser like him, but that was a thought. And then I think we needed a linebacker, and the coaches loved the way I hit, and said, hey, let's try this kid, and I was okay.
Willie, what was it about the sport that you enjoyed back then when you were first starting out?
I think it was the ability to relieve yourself of some stress, right? Because actually, and you hear it all the time, guys saying, I remember Willie, he knocked my teeth out, or someone said I gave him a concussion, or I think that was my outlet for releasing my frustrations, or whatever they were, right? Not that I was a crazy kid or anything, but I loved the hitting part, right? I did, right? I love catching someone and tackling them. And it was just that simple.
Well, I want to tell you about a play that I know you don't remember, but it was a scrimmage. We were in 11th grade, and I want to say you were playing defensive end in a particular scrimmage. Well, the long and the short of it is you hit me so hard, I was looking almost out my ear hole. And that was not easy back then.
Yeah,
And I'm going to
yeah.
have on Eric McAllister is going to join us in a few weeks, and I'm going to remind him about a play as well. But you're not supposed to look out the side of your helmet.
No, no, no.
But
Yeah,
oh, it wasn't dirty at all. You were a clean player, but when it was time to bring it, you brought it.
yeah. That's
And
what I tried to do. Yeah.
we had some success our ninth grade year. Our
Hmm.
sophomore year, we really spanked a bunch of folks. We
Yep.
were a very good team. We had way more team speed than
Yep.
anybody who we
Yeah.
played. And that played out to fruition our senior year
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But where I want to take you is off the field. I want to talk about academics. I
Okay.
want to talk about teachers that you enjoyed their classes. Where
Oh,
did you like
wow.
being out in the school when you were getting away from football? Those
This,
kind of things.
this is gonna sound weird, right? So I was also in ROTC, and during my time there at Northview, we had a Marine Corps junior ROTC, and we had this instructor, and I really forgot the guy's name. I probably should have looked it up, but he was a master sergeant, and everybody thought he was crazy, right? And because his persona, he was that persona of a Marine, right? And we'd go to Paris Island every year. So if, for those you don't know, Paris Island is where all their new military Marine recruits go to train their first year or so, right? And they treated us like Marines, recruits, and they'd get us off the bus yelling and screaming, and we'd have to stand in line, and the bugs would bite us, and we'd have to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning to march our way over to the mess hall and eat, and we did all the gas chamber and all that stuff, right? I loved those courses. Now I did very well. I think I graduated with a 3.5 or something like that. So I did well, and I always wanted to be an accountant for whatever reason, and we'll talk about that later. Um, but I actually do have an accounting degree, right? But we'll talk about that later. But the one thing I loved, and it's something that will probably never happen again in high school ever, is we had a shooting range in the high school. I don't know if you knew that or not, right? There was a gun range inside the high school,
Yeah, I don't
and
think they have
I
those
I
anymore.
would go if I had a time off or during class. I had the ability to walk to the gun range, get my gun out because I had a gun there, and then take it to the range and just do target practice because I was part of the rifle team, right? And do target practice and during class, right? So everybody's learning
You ever
class.
told to Stephen, your son?
Yeah, we had that conversation. He said, "Oh, no, Dad, that would never happen, right? That would never happen, right?" So it was interesting, and I was always curious if they still had it there or not, or if they did something with it. But yeah, it was at the far end of the school. Um, I forgot what hall that was, but yeah, I'd go and get my gun, get my ammunition, and get my jacket and put it on, and just go in there and
Oh,
shoot
that's
targets for a while.
crazy. That was 35 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Miss C said, "Is it Master Sergeant Hogan?" Is that who?
That's who it is. It sure
Of
is.
course,
Yeah,
Miss
yes, it
C
was.
would
She
remember.
would
Thank
remember. Yes, Master Sergeant Hogan. Yeah, yeah.
you. I wanna
Love that guy. Love that guy.
you guys to welcome Shane Cobb, who played in the early teams.
Okay.
Jason Barkley, who's a year or two behind us. Let's see who else is here. Brett Heisler was with us a minute ago. So thank you, guys. I'm talking with Willie Banks, one of my teammates and classmates. And Shirley said it was down the 700 hall.
Yeah, okay. 700 Hall. It was way
Never-
out there, right? Most folks didn't go that far. Out by the if you didn't do I think it was driver's ed was out that way and then ROTC.
And I also had Mr. Grigsby for Spanish down there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just remember that. And that all coming from there all the way back into the school was just
Yeah.
like 3 miles long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you would hang out and get to spend some downtime
Mhm.
doing that. Another
Yeah.
probably good stress reliever, probably a good getaway from all the main stuff of what's going on in school. Um, that's a good thing that you had that
Yeah.
you were able to do. Now, how far did you take your ROTC training?
So so I from high school, when I went off to college at Troy, I joined ROTC at Troy. And so I did a lot of crazy stuff at Troy. I was on the football team. I had a double major. I joined the fraternity, and I was in ROTC. so
Whoa, whoa,
so
whoa.
so there's a lot going on there, right?
When did you sleep? Because it's hard enough to just do one of those activities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, football forced you. We had a football was different back then. We had curfews, right? Especially during the season. So during the season, the curfew was 11 o'clock, and you got caught out, you get in trouble. So that allowed me to at least go to sleep. But then I also had breakfast check in the morning, so I'd have to be up and breakfast, or at least signed in, pretending I was eating breakfast by 8 o'clock every morning. So if you miss that, then you get in trouble. You're running because coach will make sure you were up, getting plenty of sleep at night, and up getting a decent breakfast in the morning, type of thing. But yeah, I had a lot going on, right? So a lot of my fraternity stuff, I sort of did during the off seasons, during the spring and the winter when we weren't we were working out at 6 in the morning during the winter, so I had plenty of time during the day. ROTC was a little different story. I had to sort of finagle it and figure it out, right? Because I decided I was going to go into the Air Force after. I loved the military. Like I said, Master Sergeant Hogan was he was a mentor. Even though everybody thought he was a little crazy, but when you got him down one on one, the guy had a lot of information. He knew a lot. He had a lot of life lessons that he could teach you, and I learned a lot from him. And I decided to go in the military. So I wound up getting a commission in the Air Force and became an officer after I graduated college.
And how many years were you in the military after
I
college?
spent 8 years in the Air Force. I was a captain when I resigned my commission and decided to try my luck in the real world. But those 8 years were, this little boy from from Alabama, I wound up in some very interesting places, doing some very interesting things that I never thought either existed or I could actually do. I've been to Korea, I've been to Guam, I've been to Alaska, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to um, um, Japan, all over the place. Um, in this military life, and I loved it. And I try to encourage other teens and other kids in college. My son's even debating it, right? Say, hey, maybe I'll go to the military and let them pay for my master's degree or maybe pay for my doctorate. And I say, hey, it's a possibility. Is there? Why not? Right? It's an option, right? And so yeah, I loved it. I had a great time. It taught me a lot. It brought me sort of out of my shell to some degree. I was already sort of out of it, but it taught me a lot, and it allowed me to use that bearing too to be successful.
Well, I was just getting ready to go there. Every person has those times in their life, really, that they remember were coming of age moments, leadership development moments, things that are important to them that kind of pivoted them to the next phase of life. And I'm hearing all kind of that from your story. What I want to ask you about is the leadership aspect.
Right.
You've been a leader since you were a kid, whether it was intentional or not, deliberate or not.
Yeah.
Your actions have spoke volumes of others, me included. And I've always admired that about you. I've always admired that you just went about your business and you did it and you didn't make a fuss.
Yeah.
But there's stories in there that I'm sure have stuck with you.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share any of those pivotal moments that come to mind on the field, in the military, that you can share with younger generations that they may be able to learn from.
Yeah, I'm sure I have plenty of stories, right? And if you notice, when I get to talking, I just keep going, right? So people at work don't allow me to talk very often because I'll turn a 15-minute meeting into a 45-minute meeting, right? But I think just sort of not necessarily stories, but I know one of the things that stuck with me over the time, my entire life really is, I remember my mom would tell me, right, true leaders do it, they don't say it, right? And I was one of those guys that I would, I didn't talk trash necessarily on the field. If you didn't know I was there, you didn't know I was there until I hit you, right? Sometimes, right? So I wasn't that vocal guy, and I think it was part of my upbringing of being humble, but doing your job, do what you're supposed to do, staying out of trouble. And I think my mom taught me that, right? That was one of the things that she would instill in me, whether she knew it or not, right? And it was it was one of those things that that stuck with me, and I that's what I did. Military definitely, even in ROTC, like I said, Master Sergeant Hogan was a great influence, and he sort of confirmed what my mom had always taught me, and that was one of the attributes he loved about me, was that I was that silent guy. And I don't know if the military has, and definitely Marines have these silent drill teams, right? And I was part of one of those at ROTC. We had some really great guys that would actually they were awesome. They could spin the weapons and do all kinds of crazy things. And we do these competitions where it was a silent competition where the team didn't say anything. We had to have already practiced and designed a routine that was completely silent. Nothing was being said. Sometimes it was a foot stomp or something like that kind of got you going, but it was all quiet. And that was me, right? It was sort of the epitome of who I was, right? I maneuvered and I moved and I shaked and I got things done, but I didn't always have to have the words behind it, right? I wasn't that loud guy that had to sort of boast and brag. I just did what I did.
Well, you were whether it was in the military or on a team, a sports team, you were the consummate teammate. And you've already described how you had to, within your position of playing one of the inside linebacker positions, you're trusting and relying upon the D linemen ahead of you to do their job.
Yep.
Know you've got backup behind you. So now you're free to do your job.
Yep.
And that always sits within the discipline of teamwork and the discipline of your specific position.
Yep.
Also, it didn't hurt to have a D1 linebacker, right
on the other side. Yeah.
Didn't hurt at all.
Didn't hurt at all, right? Yeah.
Whether it was playing for Northview, playing at Troy, or in the military, you just seem from a leadership standpoint to be able to find that niche that worked for you within the framework of the bigger picture. And
Right.
that's what makes the ultimate teammates.
Yeah.
It really,
Yeah.
it really does.
Yep. I agree.
But now here's where I'm going to make you a little uncomfortable.
Uh-oh.
I want you to talk about you. What were you most proud of in high school from a sports standpoint? Not a team standpoint, from
You know, because well, the two sports that I participated at Northview was football, which was a team sport, and then I ran track, and track was, you know, it was a team sport with, you know, but a lot of times it was individual. And I ran the 400, right? I ran the 200 sometimes, but I wasn't really fast enough, and I ran the 800 sometimes, and I didn't have the brute stamina to run 2 full laps, you know, at damn near full speed. So I ran the 400 a lot, and Coach Griffin would, you know, he'd encourage me, and I think I hit a couple of PRs during my short change. I think I ran for 2 years, but I don't know. I guess I'm one of those guys. I'm not really. I didn't really look for honors or accolades or
I know that.
or
Not putting you on the spot.
but
I just remember our senior year when Cassie's shoulder went completely out.
Yeah.
And that brought in Chris Parker, but that also propelled you to really step up.
I had to call the plays. You know, Cassie called all the he called all the plays, right? And I knew them, but you know, he was the designated guy. And you're right, you know, he'd go down and I'd come back in front, right? And call the plays. So I think, you know, ultimately me getting a scholarship was a great joy, right? Even though we knew folks that were going to school and going to scholarships, I never really thought it was a possibility. I didn't think I was that great, right? Apparently I was okay. And so
my friend, you've been on a Division II national championship team.
Yeah. I was started.
I know you're one of the humble guys, and I'm just giving you a hard time because I can't.
But that was you know, getting that scholarship was huge, and I was recruited a lot. I remember it was funny. I remember I think it was Cassie and I was going on a recruiting trip to Western Kentucky, right? And we had to fly out of the little Dothan, Alabama airport, flew to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta, I think Lexington or something up there in Kentucky. And I remember quickly we put our bags, you know, we checked them at Dothan, not knowing that they were going to make their way to because I think it was my first flight, right? My first trip, right? On an airplane. And we got off the plane and then tried to go to baggage claim to get our bags, to then check them in again for the next airline. And it's like, no, your bag's are already gone. And it's like, oh crap. And we had like a very short period of time. We had to go back through security and run, you know, bad analogy, but do the OJ through the airport, right? To make our way.
Back then, you could do all those things.
You could, and we made it. We made it and made it to West Kentucky. I loved it out there. It just wasn't me, and because I'm a subtle guy. And the best thing happened is Troy offered me. Yeah, I was offered by Tuskegee, Alabama State, Troy, West Kentucky, and a few other places. Troy was actually the perfect solution for me because I already had a system there. My brother and sister was already in school in Troy. I didn't have a vehicle, but they had vehicles, and you didn't need it in Troy, but you may have needed it to get home, even though it was only an hour away. So Troy was that was a big thing for me. It launched me from there, right? It allowed me to achieve a goal of getting a college degree, actually 2 of them. I met some great friends, joined a fraternity, you know, played some ball, got a ring out of the deal, and then launched my military career from there on into bigger and better things from there.
How big of a night? How excited was your mom when Troy came and offered you?
She was excited because now she said, you know, his dream is coming true, and I don't have to pay for it, right? And because, you know, at that time, even though there were grants and there was loans, I didn't know anything about all that, right? I wasn't really that guy looking for it, and my mom was excited. She was happy, and the coaches came and had a conversation, and they personally offered me at home while I was there. And my mom was there, and she was excited, and she's like, is this real? I was like, yep, it's real. I'm going to Troy, and it was perfect, right? It was a perfect situation because she knew her baby. Even though I'm not the baby, I'm the fourth of 5 children. And my younger brother is the baby, even though he and I have conversations about that, because he wasn't supposed to be here because my parents waited way too long, like 4 or 5 years to have him. And it's like, I heard you have conversations about how you did your brother back in the day, and not letting them talk on the way to school and stuff. So I think I punished my younger brother a lot because I didn't like that I was no longer the baby. So I took that from her. But she knew that her child was going to be taken care of because he was with his brother and sister. I wasn't like I was going off somewhere by myself, and she would be concerned. This was the best story for her. It was the best ending of a high school career onto a college career.
Well, guys, I'm talking with Willie Banks, and I want to tell you, Willie, we got some other folks: Tara Wade Estes, Kevin Jackson, Dwayne Thomas, Joseph Johnson, Coach Jerry Andrews, Coach Rick Cleveland, Revis Gertman. Revis says to tell you that Randy Wilkes asks about you all the time.
Randy. Tell Randy I said hello.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gosh, Willie, there's so many things we can. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. It was common back then for some of the long distance runners on the track team to wear combat boots training.
Yes.
I've never understood it, but I got to ask you, did you wear combat boots when you were doing training?
I did. And my combat boots were the boots I wore for junior OTC. And I don't know if you remember, Harvey Flowers used to do it all the time. Right. And he would wear them, he was a hurdler, right? He'd wear them all the time during practice. And my brother wore them when he would go running long distances. And the idea was that as you add additional weight and additional obstructions to your body for long distance running, and then when you are actually competing and you have those little bitty lights, well, they weren't quite light back then. They are light now. Light shoes on, right? You had less impediments, and it would actually make you faster, or at least you felt better. You felt stronger with these small light shoes on versus did with a 5-pound boots on.
Willie, were you wearing socks under those?
Yeah, you wore socks. Yeah, we wore socks. We wore the tube socks, right? But you get used to it, right? And I was used to it because I wore them all the time for OTC, right? So the boots weren't a. Once you get used to them, you get used to them. Right?
Well, I just always used to see those guys running up and down 431.
431, yeah.
Training, thinking, I assume they're on the track team, not part of ROTC because they don't have any uniforms on.
Yeah.
But it just, wow, what a training regiment.
Talk to Coach Griffin. Coach Griffin was the problem. No, I'm not messing with Coach.
Well, if I could ever get him on this show, we're going to let him address all of that.
Yeah, but my brother used to do it all. He was one of those guys, and I've done it too, where I've run all the way down to, I don't know what was the name of that. There's a place down there. I forgot the name of it. It was like a nature reserve.
Landmark Park.
Landmark Park, right? We'd run all the way down and run all the way back, right? So
wow,
that was crazy. That was crazy. Coach Griffin. Coach Griffin.
Well, Willie, what was it about your experience of playing in high school and playing in college that you were able to share with Stephen along his journey? And before you answer, I know what most are going to be thinking. Most kids coming up could care less what their parents have to say. They don't want to hear about the past. I did it this way. Well, I don't care. I'm doing it my way.
Yeah.
You can give Stephen the exact same advice that his coach at Grayson is giving. He's not listening to you. I mean, I don't know Stephen well enough, but I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
How were you able to not be that helicopter dad? How did you let him find his way?
Well, unfortunately, I was a helicopter dad. I've coached every sport that my sons have played, and my sons have wrestled, basketball, football, you name it. If they've participated in it, I've been there, right? But I come to it with some sort of a pedigree, right? I'm not just a dad that says I was the best guy, because I'm not. I wasn't the best guy, but I was pretty good. My thing with Steven is, we had competition. And, I say, hey, dude, I have 2 rings. How many do you have? Right. And that was just how we'd approach it. So then once he won his state championship ring, he won a state championship ring his senior year. Same year we played Hoover.
Mhm.
Um, um, and he was like, okay, Dad, I got one. I'm on my way. I'm going to Georgia State now. I'm going to get another one. Now he does have a second ring. It's a bowl ring. They won the Cure Bowl. It wasn't a national championship, so we're in discussions now if it really counted or not, right?
Oh,
But
it's
I
all
but I but I
it's
think
all hardware.
yeah, but I think and then of course my 11-year-old is playing now. And I'm one of the assistant coaches on the team as well. Going through that, I think I see a lot of dads also going through this process. The important thing is that I'm not just a dad standing on the sidelines talking from the fence line. I'm actually out there coaching and giving him examples, and I'm not just coaching him. And for all my sons, I try not to just coach them. And so if my son is playing defensive line, I'm not coaching the defensive lineman. I'm going to coach the linebackers or the offensive line. I try to stay away from them, and I try not to influence their playing time. I'm trying not to be that dad, right? Because I think they have to earn it, and they respect me for it by making them earn everything they have. For example, even now I'm coaching my 11-year-old son's team, but I'm also on the board, coaching, not coaching, but helping with the touchdown club. So you'll see me. Matter of fact, this Friday night we're playing at 6 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Grayson's playing one of our rivals across town in Parkview, and you'll probably see me on the sideline. I do. I try to show them you do what you have to do to help. So I'm that guy that's I get there early. I help set up the field. I help the coaches out whatever they need to do. I'll do anything from I'm a get back coach, or I'm a if the kids need extra stretching and the manager needs some help, I'm doing that. So I'm all over the place, and I'm showing my son you do what you have to do. I don't, you don't have to be paid to do a job. You have to add value back to the team. Whatever team you're on, add value. And so that's what I'm showing them. And it doesn't, you don't have to get anything out of it, right? It just add value and be proud of it. I'm adding value. So
It's part of being the ultimate teammate, and you've
yeah,
always done that, and you're
yeah,
leading by example once again.
yeah,
Willie, tell me, I want to, as we get close toward the end of our awesome conversation,
yeah,
I do want to take you to our senior year. Can't get
yeah,
away from that. I want some impressions, some memories, some thoughts, something that makes you smile every once in a while. And it, 5 overtimes, crazy
yeah,
Lawrence,
yeah.
just all this. But then after at homecoming, we started clicking,
Mm-hmm.
and we just kept winning until
Yeah.
we got to the Dothan
Got
game.
Dothan High. Yeah, yeah,
There are a few memories that you have on or off the field.
yeah. So yeah, I remember the I won't say the only game, but one of the games that I cried was the Dothan High loss, right? Because we had it. Um, the probably the scariest game was Robert E. Lee, because you're sitting at, man, we're about to go to track practice now, right? Because it's over, and then you and David Hogan just sort of got crazy there and just went crazy on us, and scored. And I still remember, I even crazy things like I remember hopefully Lonnie's still on, but I remember coming back from Montgomery and Lonnie catching cramps because he ate so many bananas, right? So it's things like that. We had a great team, right? We had a great team full of guys, and I don't think there was anybody on the team that you wouldn't want to sit next to on a 3-hour bus ride. I think everybody had their own personalities, but we all knew that we were out there for a certain purpose, right? Everybody stayed together and fought for that purpose, right? The team wasn't bigger than any one guy, even though Lawrence was our guy, right? He was the star of our team, if anybody asked, right? But he didn't overshadow us. And when he went down that first series of the first game, we suffered for a quick little bit, right? And I don't even think that was even crazy. I think that game was even delayed because of some tornado or hurricane or something, if I remember correctly.
Got delayed from Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Monday because of a hurricane.
That exactly, right? So that was that weird moment. But yeah, I had a lot of great teammates, sitting in the back of Bubba Johnson's truck, and he taking us home and laughing at crazy stuff Lonnie would do, or or we had a great time, right? I have lots of great memories, right? One of my best is something teams don't really do much more anymore, but watching and our pep rallies, right? And Dr. Smith, giving those words of encouragement and those poems, and I would even say that the last real thing I did with the team is, as we're coming back from Birmingham and seeing the police escort bringing us through Dothan, and that feeling, and we're sitting out there, and it was cold that night, and we didn't want to leave, right? Because we knew it was over. It was over for us. That was it. But you didn't want to leave. So I always tell my son. I remember sitting on my front porch here at the house, and my son was going to high school. I said, "Hey, son, ninth grade. It's a great time. You're going to go through a lot of changes." I said, "But guess what? You're going to blink your eye, it's going to be over. So enjoy it." And then every year we'd have that same conversation. First day of school, on the porch. And while he was, the first couple of years while he was waiting for his bus, the last few years while he was about to jump in his car and leave, right? But and I said, "Hey, son, just think, it's going to be over." And I remember our last time, the night before he graduated, the night of his graduation, we were sitting out there and we took some photos, and he said, "Dad, it's over." I said, "Yeah, I told you, those 4 years will go by quick. So enjoy it." And I have a lot of enjoyment. I had a great time at Northview. A lot of history, a lot of great feelings, and some not so great ones. But most of all, and way above, I had great memories. We had great coaches. We had great staff. We had great quarterback club. That supported us. It was just a great environment that launched me into my career.
My friend, I can't thank you enough for such a fun conversation.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your continued friendship.
Thank you.
And just being part of my life, and just history and in the future.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Hey, thank you for thinking about me. For those you don't know, Bernard contacted me, and I just went through a medical scare. I just actually I contracted COVID about a month or so ago. Went through some time, and Bernard checked in on me and made sure I was okay. And then he was like, "Hey man, let's do this. Let's I'm gonna get you on the web and have an interview." And I enjoyed it, and I enjoy this now, right? And I appreciate your friendship and thinking about me. Like Bernard said, we've communicated several times over years, and he's given me some advice on things I needed assistance with. And if he didn't have it, he didn't know it, he said, "But this is the guy that does know it," right? And he can give me numbers, and but I appreciate it for just not answering the phone, right? Every time I called, he'd pick it up and he'd say, "Hey bud, what's up?" Right? And we'd go at it. So I greatly appreciate it, man.
Well, guys, I can't get any better than Willie Banks, number 40. So thank you all
Appreciate it.
for
Thanks.
tuning in. I know I've missed some of you guys who've just rolled in, but if you haven't seen Willie's discussion with me tonight, go back and watch it. It's well worth your time. I've got these scheduled every Wednesday night through almost the end of the year. All kind of guys are coming up and still trying to reach out to others. So thank you guys for conversations with Cougars every Wednesday night. Y'all be safe. I don't know where you are in the Southeast, but hopefully you're out of harm's way, and just have a safe weekend. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Bernard.